And it's really just the universe trying to balance itself out. It's an aspect that's very balancy. I think a very good term for it that the Egyptians we used to use was like ma'at. You know, that's what it kind of represents. It's the balancing force that ma'at, M-A-A-T. And that's why us opening up channels, you know, to where, you know, more privileged folks can help less privileged people, or, you know, or help those people empower themselves in ways where this body can operate and start to manifest the blessings that are just waiting to bust through once opportunity pops up. There's also an aspect of life called osogbos that is a popular thing in the Yoruba tradition, where they talk about areas of life where you might have bad luck. Or let's say two people aspire to be a boxer, and then one person, every time they're about to have a fight, something wrong happens. The guy's weight is not right, so you know he can't fight. You know, he gets sick right before his match. You know, then you have the other person who fights one time and he didn't really train. He's knocking people out and he's getting all these calls, he's getting all this publicity. It's like, why? How come one guy didn't get it? It seems like everything's working in his favor, and then the other person's. And so osogbos kind of talk about what are those pacts you made before you were born that will dictate what is kind of a curse for you. Some people don't need to be fighting. Some people don't need weapons. You know, some people are high accident prone just based upon their destiny and their spiritual makeup. They were never supposed to have those things. And so you'll see once you start tapping into your power, you know, doors start opening up all of a sudden, and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? I get it. This was sort of, I was never supposed to be a big rapper. We forget when we come here. And so we get all these clues though, you know, clues over long periods, extended period of time. This realm becomes most apparent with awareness. And you will know when you will know when it's healthy, because everything you want just pops up when you're just like, wow, you know, like I remember one time I was moving and I needed a screwdriver, for example, you know, and some guy's like, hey, you need a screwdriver? Randomly. I'm like, yeah, boop, 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 stuff, random stuff like that. Or you're in the store and you're like, man, I really need a buggy. I have too much stuff, and a buggy just is empty, sitting right there. And you're like, man, I'm in my lane today. But you can also, you know, it can also start to fall off, you know, like you might get certain signals, you know, like there'll be warning signs, you know, like maybe you go to a meeting and the person is sick that you're supposed to meet up with, you know, and it's like, oh, is that a sign? You know, that person's sick. And then you go somewhere else and you lose something that you're supposed to have, you know, and then something else goes wrong. One of your friends is going through, you're like, man, what's going on? And in those situations, those are great times to like sit down and meditate or pray or something to try to say, okay, I need help. Because there's another side to this that I'll get into. Each planet and the way it arranges is almost like a weather forecast. Okay. You know what I mean? So it's like, watch out for this, you know, it's going to be slippery in the communication realm, or watch out for love right now, you know, be very, you know, it's very much like that. And also planetary, meaning that whatever rays were hitting you at birth that said you will do this or you won't do that or you shouldn't do this or your personality is not geared towards that stuff's not going to change. You know, the things that you come into this life with are very much rooted, and there's so many binds and like contracts attached to it before you're born.
The days and the times and
before
the planets were aligned.
Absolutely. You notice I have mental, astral, but then the coincidence I have linking all the way here still. Because this really goes through all of it. It's just when you're writing it, it's easier to explain it going up. But everybody's always in it. It's just that people aren't in it until they're aware of it. They can't play with it or talk to it, because you can talk back to it. You know what I mean? And you can say, oh, I see you. I see this red theme going on, so I'm gonna wear red. You know, yesterday was the 18th. My son came out of his mom's house wearing an 18 jersey. You know, like stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I see you. It's 18. 18's my number today. I got you. And it's interesting how it can work, because once again, being tied to other people's, if you're not around the right people, it can create a situation where you're the example. So things are always being weighed out by the other side. This is an in-between realm. It's an in-between. It's almost like a tool that's used between very powerful, subtle beings and us. And the way they spin this thing, you know what I mean, and the way we spin it back can create a lot of things, you know, that kind of happen. But like, let's say you're at the gang member, you know, and you're like, oh, I love him, but I'm not going to be wrapped up in that gang stuff. Well, you're already in the story. You're in that movie. You chose to be in that storyline. So if you have to get shot to teach someone else, if there's a priority where this person has to learn this thing at this time and has to watch you get shot in order to learn it, you'll be shot. You know what I mean? Because you're there and you're in that story, and it's priority based upon a lot of negotiations that are made on the other side. What happens from moment to moment. So this is the other side of the coincidence body. These are the ones that are sort of making decisions based upon whether they have an affinity for you or whatever. So upper realm, divine guardian angels, collective. This is a very mysterious place that I won't even pretend to fully understand, but it has a lot of negotiations taking place, especially the realms where they actually care about human beings, and care about our planet. Because once again, this is very cosmic. This is big. This is very expansive. I call it the truth space. I say this is the dimension of a much larger and way more mysterious, unpredictable forces. Some of these forces are concerned with the realm of men and push their own agendas through pushing on the collective coincidence bodies of connected people. Beings in this realm are all see-through, meaning that what you see is what you get. Some beings here are aligned with the effective sun and the Gaia heartbeat. That's just a nickname I sort of give to, like, the Gaia heartbeat's like the earth and its heartbeat. Some spirits are not that are on this film. Like, this is a very much angels versus demons, and bigger than that. It's in-betweens that are fighting for, some don't care about the earth. They're just like, create machine world, let's go. You know what I mean? And then you got on the other side. So in the effective sun, I kind of talk about that almost as like a polar middle, a place that's very harmonic and wants everything to sort of line up. But there's other forces that don't want things to line up. They like the chaos, and they like to see kind of what are the possibilities. And Reiki is a very popular healing modality now that is tied to this realm. They tie that realm to your hands so that you're able to do energetic work. Certain talismans I've seen written can kind of create sort of a portal that these energies can come through directly. Once again, when you're talking about your archangels, when people like Archangel Michael, certain saints and things like that, they're talking about beings from this area, whether they're strong evils or strong goods, they're all from this higher up battle that's taking place on the outskirts, on the very subtle plane. Can be tied to shadow, which we'll talk about in a minute, if shadow aligns with the nature of a being. This is just a very mysterious other side of the coincidence body. So it's like a plate that's in between that they toy with, and then we push back. We push back. The toy is actually that realm in between. It's like us and them, and we're always communicating through and through. So Grambois is a deity they talk to in Haiti. It means big wood. It's a god that they have that is the god of the trees in Haiti. So this represents also an upper realm being. And the reason I'm saying that is because it represents the collective body of all those forests. This deity represents the trees as far as a collective, the collective mind of that forest. So when they're paying tribute to this nature entity, they're not just paying homage to like a higher etheric being. They're also paying homage to all the trees as well. Which is something we've kind of got away from when, like, for example, we have other gods that are like money. You know what I mean? Money. And not anything against Jesus per se. I just put him him as an example because he's not tied to a landmass or anything. And some people exploit that. They say, oh, well, Jesus isn't the forest. Let's chop the forest down. Whereas in a lot of ancient times, their gods were attached to the forest. And so it was more protected because it was more superstitious. Like, you can die if you burn this tree. You can, if you do this or this. But now we don't have those protections because now God is like out in space somewhere. So it's a very different thing. And so I call these kind of gods human fed because they rely on faith, and a lot of things to kind of stay in power. Where money's not really a traditional god. It's not tied to anything of substance, So the last and most confusing body that I have to explain is the dark body or the shadow body, which is what we're talking about in the beginning. This is our body of darkness used to commune with the shadows around us. This realm is very different from the realms of light. Each realm reveals another secret about a being, but 99% of people can't perceive this realm directly. If a spirit has a physical body, whether it's in a doll, it can hide its intent and form in the shadow realm. So basically you have light here, you have a physical body here, but everything that has a physical body is exposed to light, a certain light of this world. And so it has to have a shadow. And so the shadow is the hidden aspect of the vessel, you know. So a spirit must be conscious that it has a shadow to do this and can only fully express it in darkness. Earlier, we were talking about how some things that are in the shadows can kind of grow in the dark. You're like, that thing kind of always creeped me out, but when I turn off the lights, and I'm really freaked out, you know. The reason that is because that entity is a living entity, but it's alive in a different way than human beings are. And this is a hard one to explain, but the shadow is a realm as well. And it has a different set of rules.
Your shadow?
My shadow, our shadow, everything's shadow is a realm. Okay. But in order for that shadow to be active, that thing has to be aware that it exists. Mm-hmm. So this table's shadow will not cause Sharona any issues. You know, but if she had, for example, a certain doll or something that is very aware that it's there, you know, which is where you get your movies such as Chucky and all these sort of movies, is from people having these crazy experiences with these dolls and things. But it has to be conscious. It has to be conscious in order to use it. But it's the secret side of the embodied spiritual, you know, so that we're embodied spiritual beings that can move. There's other embodied spiritual things that cannot move. They don't have physical power, but they might have astral, mental, intuitive, and all these other powers, but they don't have physical power to be of blood and bone and move around and stuff. Well, oftentimes you'll see this, they're activated in dolls, statues, certain roots, paintings, bones, pursuit. And this is where you get the pursuit of sacred artifacts. They're like, oh, that's the spirit that, you know, have you heard people like say, oh, in some of these movies, that's the spirit that killed Jesus, you know, so if you can get it, you know what I mean, you'll have this certain power. They're talking about that shadow power, because this thing did something so dramatic. The genie in the lamp thing, it comes from this. That's what this is. And so if you notice, she's even holding some sort of lamp there. That's why when I was doing these little people here, I was talking about how a lot of really connected people can feel this fear, but I put myself way down in the shadow. Because like, I feel this so strongly. That's where this class comes from, is me going through these fights in this. And, but it's like, this realm is like a womb. It's the birthplace of physical beings. Everybody coming from the subtle realm goes through the shadow to be birthed. You know, it's where everything is that final stamp. It's like the dark signature. You know, it's like, okay, this is Montague, sign here. This is what you are, push through, you know. And if you're trying to banish anything, like let's say you have something evil and you're like, I'm going to banish you. I'm going to throw holy water on you. I'm going to pray over you. It won't work. It won't work for anything that came through this way, you know. And so, but it'll work if somebody puts something evil in it. So you can remove what somebody put something on. You know, but you can't remove it if it was born there. It's like you can't banish me out of my body. You know what I'm saying? You can't be like, Montague, I hate you. I'm going to banish you out of your body. The containers are very important. Once again, a doll's a container, statues are containers, vessels are containers. They're very important in this realm. Contents is everything when it comes to the shadow dimension. Dolls, paintings, statues, and other innately activated containers. Once again, innately meaning they were born activated, are defined by the codes in their physical contents. So it's almost like when the light hits the body, it creates the shadow, you know, and when that shadow's there, it has sort of its own like hidden nature of the thing. Yeah.
If shadow is supposed to be shadow, why is light involved?
Because it's the light that creates the shadow, you know. You can't be shadow without light. You see how that light's hitting? Now there's a shadow. And the shadow, and this esoteric shadow, it uses the body to kind of read what kind of shadow it's going to be. You know, it's like, you know, like my DNA, all this light that I am is going to be represented in that shadow. You know, this is not a realm of intent. This is not something you can say, oh, I intend for the light to hit you. It will not work. If you're sensitive to this realm, it's what it is. You know. The shadow realm. Yeah, it is what it is. If you're sensitive to the shadow realm, meaning that you perceive it, and there's ways to test that you're sensitive to this realm. And, you know, anybody who wants to know if they are and wants to get tested, let me know. But there's certain ways that you will react to certain things every time. Anybody I know that's ever been here and I give them this certain test, they're like, okay, yeah, this will freak me out and this won't. This brings me comfort in the dark. And it's never different. Like, just like how fire's hot. You know, whatever's gives you creepy, weird, sinister vibes here is always that way. And whatever's not will always bring light vibes. But in like the mental sphere and the intuitive and the astral plane, those planes you can do more intent type work and just intend for things to be gone. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, for real? Oh, bye. You know, that sort of thing. So what is a blessing? Now that we've went through these, but it's to give a gift of activation, protection, healing, and or pleasure to any one of the conscious or unconscious bodies of a being. So it's basically like a gift of pleasure, a gift of healing in any way possible that can touch any one of these spheres. Now, once again, if it's fragmented in a perverse way, it will upset another sphere. Like, let's say I just want to please only my physical body through the foods that I get and not pay attention to how I feel emotionally or mentally or any of that, then I'm going to suffer in other realms. I might have headaches or I might have emotional issues or whatever. So you want the pleasure to go through the whole as much as you can. You know what I mean? But spiritual blessings are geared towards tying various invisible bodies of a being through prayer, anointing, smudging, to esoteric healing forces such as medicinal plant forces and trusted guides such as angels. Angel being a trusted, guide that may have helped your family or walks with you wherever you go. The more bodies that the blessing covers, the larger and more full the blessing. Okay. What is banishing? Be gone, Satan. I thought this was cute. Anyway, banishing is the untying or release of an undesired entity, energy that is bound to or in contact with an individual. If the link is born to an object through a universal shadow realm contact, the link can't be broken. But if evil is placed upon a person or a thing, it can be removed. In banishing, we use all the same tools that are used in blessing. Sometimes a blessing is a banishing. Sometimes me blessing you here is going to release all kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I anoint you with this. You're like, demon Jinn is like, get off me. But when we focus on the evil that is attached, that is considered banishing. So it's really about focus. When you're focused on healing the person, you're focused on what's good or what's surrounding or the environment around the demon or whatever, that's blessing. But if you're focused on the demon itself, that's banishing. Spirits in this presentation refer to any disembodied being, spirits free floating or attached to objects, attached to the auras of various walking life or spaces such as parks or churches. These spiritual beings are usually experienced indirectly through emotions, flashes of light, shadows that disappear when you take a closer look, coincidences, and an array of sensations. So it's just keen to note that that's how most quote unquote, normal folks would experience those things. They'd be like, what is that? Nothing's there, like more like that. Whereas someone who's really sensitive might just see something with horns sitting right next to them or something, Many believe that by simply non-believing that demons, ghosts, and malevolent powers cease to exist, this actually makes them stronger. By leaving them unchecked, these spirits run amok, feeding on our emotions and our ignorance. Non-belief comes from a place of privilege. So everybody doesn't need the same amount of spiritual protection in order to have a good result. Some people just need a light little prayer because they're not all the way in all these other places. Like some people don't need a whole bunch of sunscreen, but I'm not going to say you won't get burned, or something like that. But some people say, oh, all I need to do is this. So you're tripping, or you're just lost. And it's like, no, everybody's different. People have different sensitivities. Anyway, for example, only an extremely small portion of the population can actually feel dust mites directly. They're crawling all over people all over the time. Most people don't feel the mites happily walking onto their skin after a long day of waiting patiently in their mattresses and pillows. But there are a majority of people that experience these bugs indirectly through a bunch of symptoms that look like colds and allergies. Some folks just assume they don't have any pests because they don't experience anything, so the mites grow even stronger. So people get hay fever, running nose, sneezing. So this is just an example of how something you don't believe in can get stronger and stronger and still create symptoms. You know what I mean? Just like people that say spirits don't exist.
Are the bugs really there?
Yeah, they're really there. But some people can't feel them directly. I can always feel them. I can feel them. You'll just be laying there and you feel something. You look there, you don't see nothing. And you're like, oh, time to change the mattress or time to fix it. Because I don't like them. They bug me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I felt them certain places. You know what I mean? But most people that live there, they don't know. Or they might have asthma, you know, and they'll go to the doctor and the doctor's like, oh yeah, you have dust mites. It's an issue. Okay, in the same way with spirits, all people with spirits will experience spirits, good or bad, through the vehicle of their open emotional body. So many folks just assume that they feel a certain way because of a hard day at work, random brain chemicals, or their Facebook newsfeed. Instead of the spirit that is using them, evil or troublesome spirits are highly undesired because they tend to feed on heavily destructive emotions that bring stagnation to the individual. So once again, this emotional body, these emotions we create are very attractive to certain spirits. And some of them like things spicy. You know, they're like, I need my spicy meal. Who has the anger problem? You know what I mean? So they'll make sure that the coincidences in your household, you know, create a fight so they can eat whenever they're hungry. All of a sudden, an argument you thought was done just pops right back up. Or you're just angry and you don't understand out of nowhere. Sometimes it's that spirit just going, okay, come on, get mad, you know? And then you find a reason to get mad because you think it's you. And you don't realize that you're harboring angry spirits, you know, and so you need to feed them. So you blame other people for your anger. No, you did this. That's why I cussed you out. It's like, well, I was mad too, but I didn't cuss you out. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? But what are you feeding? Something's always eating. We live in a jungle spiritually, emotionally, in all ways. Just like we feed off each other by having a boss at work that's eating off of you, eating off your time and your efforts, your spirits that are eating off of your emotions, you know what I mean? And all sorts of things. You know, they want to keep you angry. They want to keep you suicidal because that's what they need. It's not like they want to hurt you on purpose, but it's what they need to exist. And so you just kind of like, when you become aware of them and the patterns, you know, you can fight back. Many spirits farm human consciousness like gardens, looking for cracks and open spaces within the human psyche to plant seeds for desired emotions. Some of these spirits can be rooted in the home or residing in one's aura, only to become activated when the spirit is hungry. Irritability, depression, anxiety, blah, blah, blah. Statements like, I just don't feel like myself, are often signs that there could be spiritual interference. The most obvious spiritual offenders are the ones that are strong enough to pop up suddenly and feed on your fear. So that's a very scary one, because some of them love you to be afraid, and those are the ones that want you to be creeped out and stuff like that, because they feed on fear primarily. You know, it's important to note here that the majority of spirits are not trying to disrupt you out of spite. Some of these entities are just hungry and want to be energized. Others don't know you're there. And see, so one of the things is that you don't want them just to farm you. You want to farm them as well.
What do you mean?
So you want to get rid of spirits you don't want in the house, but you want to draw in, you know, like in Christianity, they call it the Holy Spirit or whatever, you know, you want to feed those guys, you know what I mean? Because they're going to keep promoting what they eat, you know what I mean, in order to live, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. Just like we need love, you know what I mean? You want spirits that need love, you know what I mean? And they promote it, and that's how you want to kind of create that. So in some cases, you may have some ancestor trying to give you a message. In this case, banishing would not be recommended. Loving ancestors don't feel the same way as hungry ghosts. Wouldn't it be great to know that you could remedy illnesses or emotional problems with prayers or meditations? How much money could we save if we could try those things first? How much money have we spent covering up symptoms that are rooted in spiritual illness? A good question is, where are these spirits coming from? What are the leaks, the doorways allowing them entry? And this is one of them. The eyes. The eyes are the gateway to the soul. They are portals to the other side and entries to various human realms for spirits. Anytime an eye is drawn or painted or crafted to fit a doll, anytime a gaze is felt from anyone or anything, there are forces afoot. Not always bad, once again. The strength of the eyes depends on the heart and life force of the individual. It also depends on the projection abilities of the eye. Some people have a gift of shooting this evil look. You know what I mean? That will make you feel some type of way. You know what I mean? It's like a gift. In inanimate objects and art pieces, it depends on the materials used for creations, which gets back into that shadow aspect. And the powers of the artist sometimes too. So people worry a bunch about invisible evil spirits, but forget that human beings are also spirits. We walk around and have animated clay, but we're still spirits, you know, and you know, we love this astral plane. Humans can be portals or even homes for certain kinds of spirits as well. A heart full of hate and or jealousy can actually project a mark through the eyes. It's called the evil eye.
Yeah.
It's
I've come across
Absolutely. Its mark, once projected through the eyes, can land on its target and begin to aggressively attract spirits that wreak havoc upon the emotion, mental, and coincidence body. In extreme cases, can even cause injury to the physical body directly through sudden illness. So this is something they know about in all the shamanic cultures around the world. All the earth-based people, they always be on the lookout for this kind of stuff. On the other hand, intensely loving gazes can protect against, weaken, or thwart the evil eye. That's why it's good to not be around a bunch of people that hate you all the time. You know, be around loving people, because through that eye, they're still blessing you. The evil eye is considered extremely dangerous to babies. In many cultures, a new baby is covered up for several months to avoid the etheric toxicity of the evil eye. Floating spirit types. So one of those would be like poltergeist. You know, poltergeist, I haven't ran into a whole lot of people with them. Only ran into one lady that had them, and she was getting picked up and thrown down in her chair at home. And so these ghosts start out by, and it's interesting because it started out just like this. It said these ghosts usually start out by tossing around small things and then gradually get stronger and more aggressive. Because if you keep ignoring it and it's tossing stuff across the room, it's developing that muscle. You know, and usually only like living beings have such a strong ethereal body. But yeah, there was a certain root I gave her that helped her to knock that out. Interactive personality is this name given to disembodied spirits who still has or her astral body or etheric body intact. So there's certain people that will reside in these spheres even after they die, and they'll just come visit and talk. They're not always bad. They just have a personality still. This part of them is gone and reincarnated somewhere else, but they still have this part stays intact.
So we know someone in your class, Jill, who she was a Peace Corps volunteer in Mongolia, and then her sister was a shaman. So, like, I think on an annual basis, they call the grandparents into her sister's body.
Oh wow!
And they would come in and they're like, finally, I need
exactly.
whiskey, I need a cigar, and then, you know, and the grandfather would do his thing. He would leave. Grandmother would come in her body, and then she'd scold everyone for not doing enough. And so,
yeah.
Where would they?
Once again, that comes from this sphere here. They're floating around still, mental, astral, and even sometimes the intuitive realm. They're flowing there, but this is the part of you that detaches. The intuitive, these parts detach and go and do something else. Because basically, these are only here to almost record for the next life. Okay. They record all that information, all the things you learned or whatever. This is already learned and set. It's already been recorded. It's an old personality. But it's not necessarily needed for growth in the universe. Cool. It starts to just really die off as the body decays. The ethereal decays as well, and usually you just have this astral and mental aspect that can stay intact for a very long period of time. But it can end up dying too. Yeah. You know. Well, it depends on various factors like how it's being fed by the family. You know, like, you have Day of the Dead and stuff like that where they put pictures up. That emotional, once again, the astral realm is the fruit, of the spirit. So it's like if you're not feeding through that, oh, your grandma used to do this and do that, it just starts to dissipate, Like Coco. That's why Coco was on some real stuff. I was like, they talking about some yeah.
It was.
And did they cast it out with the water, or
the water? They read the whole entire Quran in Arabic, and for like an hour.
Wow.
Like an hour straight. And what else did he do? Oh, and he had a special Muslim musk. Like musk that you smell. He had me smelling that for like the entire hour that he was reciting the Quran, and it just like released. Like, I mean, I saw it go, the energy go just like right through my window. The window opened, the blinds open. I'm not kidding. And it was two of them. Went right through the window, and I felt it leave my body. It was all on the left side.
Orbs are flashes of light. So there's orbs. People see orbs flashing around.
I think I've seen a few of those.
And people say that those are generally like floating spirits of animals or people that just deceased. Shadow folks are shadowy figures you see out of the corner of your eye but vanish. A little shadow person there. The rewind ghost, which really has a real scientific name too that I don't use, but it's just a recorded event stuck in a time and place that just keeps replaying. It's not really a real ghost. It's like just some event that just got stagnated and stays there. And then we have a thought form, which is a mental spirit that some people can project into you. which is really interesting because we all use thought forms. You know, that's how we form our ideas.
Right.
And thought forms are oftentimes used to protect emotional fruits or even certain bad negative emotions that we have. Like there's certain things we can't attack because there's a thought form that protects it and says, no, you need that. You know, but sometimes like through very charismatic people, they'll say, you need a vacuum cleaner. You're like, I don't need a vacuum cleaner. You need a vacuum cleaner. And they'll shoot it into your mental body. And that's all you can think about is I do need a vacuum cleaner. You know, and that's the TV is very magical. It's a very magical tool. And that's why I put this little Marilyn Monroe thing, because some people get shot a certain image. You're like, that's what's beautiful. You know what I mean? And they have this weird image it's not even a real developed image. It's just in the back, just lagging there with no life of its own other than the emotions you feed it, you know, that keep it together. And it can wreak havoc and keep you in some really bad places.
Call it TV programming.
Absolutely. You got grays over here, which are oftentimes very damaging to the human psyche. Fae, which are nature spirits. You know, I have one right there.
So that alien is a gray?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a gray. Astral beings obsessed with lust and sexual chi. That's our succubus up there. They can be very damaging over a long period of time because they're draining chi nonstop. They want chi, they want lust, and they want it to just roll out until you die and wither away. The misty floaters, the traditional ghosts, and then we have spiritual leeches, you know, which just cling to people's bodies and just absorb things. Paintings can channel enormous amounts of spiritual energy through households as well. Like, look at the life in her eyes. Paintings or posters with no beings in them are 90% more likely to be neutral. Beings in paintings heighten the chances of potential spiritual issues. Once again, it's not always negative. It's either usually negative or neutral. But that's, you know, that's between you and your shaman. Paintings with well-defined eyes can easily project energy that reflects the shadow side of the artist. Or act as a portal to compatible beings. Porcelain dolls.
I did not like dolls. I hate dolls. My daughter never had a doll.
That is so good.
She never had a doll. It freaked me out. I will, no. And
Porcelain.
everybody laughed at me. I was like, I don't care. I don't like dolls.
And porcelain dolls, I found just through my sensitivities having a high affinity for tumultuous emotions. Like they like anger and they love jealousy and possessiveness. And they require a lot of attention and energy to be satisfied. Very much alive, they use many tools to stay emotionally fed. Though they lack power in the physical realm, they make up for it in the emotional. And here's another one. Modern dolls made from bastardized plastics. Remember, all these plastics tend to be very toxic and harmful. There's a lot of people getting sick from chewing on the Barbie legs and things like that. And those bastardized plastics, once again, the esoteric light hits them and creates a very negative shadow. I had a cousin who was terribly haunted by Barbies to where she couldn't even look at one without screaming. The easy breeding grounds for demonic spiritual influences, and you'll see a lot of people that like to use a lot of curses and stuff in their mat. They'll use a lot of these kind of dolls. Like they'll just use the doll head and stuff like that. The cuteness and cultural aesthetics make it easy for spirits to charm humans and bring them into a home. So they're charming you. They look very charming. They're appealing. They're like, look, I'm sassy. I'm cute. Yeah, exactly. Because we can't say no to the kids. Just like sugar, you know. They're like, we need it. And you're like, fine. No. Movies like Chucky come from extreme cases of modern doll possession. The modern love of material possessions can make it hard for modern folks to be rid of these lovable items. And these lovable items, they're very good at talking to your intuition too. And once again, they show you what they want you to know about them. They can hide their true intentions very well. So if you're very intuitive, you might say, wow, this is kind of calling to me. She's kind of cute. Now, ragdolls are the better alternative. They're not made out of bastardized plastics, you know, and these dolls they run very neutral or are easily cleaned if necessary, mostly through light smudging. Like you could just do a little sage or do a prayer over it, you know, and it's good to go. That's a good safe bet. Yeah. Puppets, it depends on what they're made out of. Remember, the container is very important when you're dealing with the shadow realm. What is it made out of? These are things we've lost touch with. Ceramic statues are also easily inhabited by troublesome spirits, especially the religious ones. Should not be brought into a home. They can be on the porch. You know, they can be in a religious space where a lot of people are going to be just doing their thing during the day. But between you and the nighttime in a personal space, it can be very bad for your mental health.
Does that include a Buddha too?
It includes a Buddha if it's made out of ceramics.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Gotta
have a
know.
Buddha that we had to put up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
They are so easily inhabited by evil that it depends on the clay. If it's is it an all natural,
Yeah.
clay, then yeah, it's fine.
So can it be infused like that? Can that Buddha, like, say it was in a temple and people were meditating and the vibe was high,
Yep.
can it actually be infused with good energy?
Well, once again, there's multiple dimensions. Okay, so what I'm talking about is it's just the only place is bad is here,
Okay.
and it can leak into other areas. But all these images are, people get inspired by these images. Like, people pray over these, and they honor their God through that. I'm sure their God and their saint or whatever is still receiving that love,
Right.
but it still has the shadow nature underneath.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's layers.
So it's kind of like if I came here to teach this class and I had the flu, it wouldn't be as pure, but I could still teach the class. So it's just the material it's made out of. This gargoyle is made out of pure wood, making the entry of creepy spirits incredibly less likely despite its strange appearance, because it innately has its own spirit, the wood. So you're not just going to put something in it. You know what I mean? It has its own nature. When you use a natural, that's where the beauty of working with natural things comes from. So when human hands are creating it, incompatible spirits can't merge with it. Zimmies, which is what some of the Tainos used to worship, were made from bone, boiled bone, clay, wood, shell, sandstone, and other natural materials. Once again, they were channeling and focusing the energy of their God through these certain dolls and that were made out of pure things. You know what I mean? So, but they had more of an understanding of the esoteric nature of light and dark. This hunter made from wood gives off incredible energy. All of these are protective, proper containers. Jesus and Buddha in stone, those are going to be very neutral and very nice. Buddha in quartz is going to be nice. We have Eshu, he's an African deity, in bone and wood. He's going to be okay. Naturally intact items such as gold, wood, and stone are much better for bringing in positively charged spirit or very neutral vibes. And neutral vibes are cool too because they resonate with your intention. If it's neutral, you can just say you're this, and it'll be like, okay, I'm this. It'll just reflect back, This is also true for vessels we used to smudge with. So, just making sure it's like a shell or something and don't use glass. It'll break. Yeah, glass. If you're using glass to burn things, it's going to just blow up. Roots that come out of the ground looking like humans. Now this was shaped by an artist, but there's a lot of roots that come out looking naturally, sort of like humans, and they can be very protective as well. So various tools. Black tourmaline is extremely protective against people and spirits who prey on the minds of others. It's just very, very strong and just blocks. It's like nothingness. It's like, it's like the divine dark that you're carrying, not the creep. Yeah, it's not the, and once again, it's just danger in this westernized notion that light is good and dark is bad. No, there's good and bad in each realm. And so this is the good dark, and this is the good light right here. Quartz, as much as it's used and talked about as commercial as it's amazing stuff. Sometimes when everybody has something, you want to go, but that's good stuff. Yeah, right.
Is it possible for a plastic anything to be good?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of plastic things we use that don't cause nightmares, but they don't have eyes. They're not made to reflect life and to desire life. But yeah, quartz is a filter, an energy purifier for the etheric body, astral, mental, and intuitive realms. Highly protective. And so, like, if something's just overwhelming, it will help filter that energy to where you can stand up to it. It's very, very good. Eggs, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? People think they got to go far out and spend all this money to get something pure and holy. Eggs are like one of the most holy objects on the planet. These anti-portals suck up astral energy, especially negative. And an activated healer or sensitive can feel its drawing properties. The egg is an energy equalizer, absorbing things of discord. Holding to the third eye to bless the ori or the head should be done often. So it's good just to lay there every once in a while and just get in your meditative space and hold that egg on your third eye and just feel whatever's not in tune with you. Just kind of go into it. Exactly. You just don't want it floating in water. You know what I mean? If you pick it up and it's really light, or and you put it in water and it's floating, its days are done. It's not going to have any more protective energy, and it's going to spoil. Elements of banishing. Ether. So this is the ether element of banishing. Lotus position. And various mantras such as Nam Myoho Renge Kyo can carry enough power to send some negative energies fleeing from your space. Just this position by itself freaks out some spirits. Like, you know, especially in an American society where most people are just entertainment based. It's easy breeding grounds for all kind of wacky little things. But when you do this, they get freaked out and they're like, what are you doing? Air. Air is everywhere and touches all things in the physical, ethereal, and astral realms. When we use intent to tie our words to air and send those words to the deity or spirits we serve, it becomes a powerful tool called prayer. Undirected speech is still feeding spirits. All words are spells in this way. Words become actions when we say them too much. Or say them a lot. So basically everything you say is feeding something. You know, it's just that prayer is such a powerful tool because you're consciously sending your words up higher. It's juicy. It's like a vibration. So that's why you got to be careful with your words, baby. You know what I mean? Because if you're feeding negative presences with negative thoughts and negative words about you, you're just feeding that thing so it can be more strong and powerful in your life. And it depends on the person in the sense of what excites your astral body the most. You know what I mean? Like what gets you going because that's what you were raised on. Oftentimes, like if you were raised with Allah or you were raised calling, when you call that, it's going to create a vortex. It's like, whoa, of that because you're so emotionally, you know, pulled to that. But also there's a thing also about getting in tune with your ancestral stuff too. Because since generations and generations and generations and generations of people caught that's in your DNA as well. So you talk to those entities, that can be a very high benefit. Oh, this is all higher up here. Yeah, you're getting out of the mind. You're getting out of your mind. You're trying to shoot past your intuitive body and hit the more subtle plane. When it comes to prayer, it is the goal actually. Yeah, because you want better coincidences, you know, pretty much, and you want alignment. You want something stronger than you or you to go through and just kind of realign things. Singing is a type of prayer too. Yeah. Absolutely. Prayer is a strong tool for pushing away negative forces. When you are praying, you're linking yourself with the entities of the upper realm for added support. These entities are usually offered poetic words of praise with a side of sincerity and passion, which coerces them to bind with your spirit to bring joy and protection from spirits under the realm's jurisdiction. Prayer is stronger in groups due to the focus of many words. So I say under the realm's jurisdiction, once again, because the coincidence body is very important. What are your resources? What have you done yourself? You know, once you can pray all you want, but and they can do all they can. But if you're not giving anything, you're not going to get anything. You gotta push. You got to push through your action. So say you're like, I need a mate. You know, I'm looking for a husband, but you just stay in your house all day. You know what I mean? You don't go anywhere. You know, or you only go to places where people are intoxicated. You're not going anywhere where someone's actually in a clear space or anything, you know. Another type of prayer is water prayer, you know, which is what we did at the beginning. Corresponds to the astral realm. It acts as a portal to that realm. Many people pray while pouring libation to tie words to water, which it holds using the intention to let the water flow to the astral realm. The prayers stay with the water. When you pray in the water, it's a very cool way to just keep that prayer around. You know what I mean? Because you're praying and it's just sitting there. That's the water. Continually pushing out those vibrations until it evaporates and becomes an air prayer. Words and intent place the water where you intend the focus energy to go. Otherwise, the energy is dispersed randomly. It's a slower process than the air prayer style. Because it's water. It's just kind of just, you know, vibing, you know. Yeah. Fire, you know, that's where you get candle stuff from. You know, people pray and then do their candles. Yep. Heats up the cold astral spirits and attracts them to this realm. They'll gather around the fire singing whatever the intent of the flame is until it dies. So you set that intent and you're attracting spirits that are in alignment with that intent. And they'll just stay there and be warm and until that flame goes out. Yeah. Earth. Food upon an altar creates a heavy pull for beings that were once living humans. They're able to come draw energy from the love, energy, and heat that was put into the food. You know, they put love into your food, put intention into your food, all that stuff. And just if you have very life-giving food, you know, a lot of positive spirits want to come and enjoy that too. This strengthens their astral chi to become stronger through your dreams as well. When we put all these elements together in one area, we get a good solid altar. Altars are powerful because they help organize the spiritual energy in your home. you know, because there's usually it's kind of chaotic without some central area that's like given dominion. You know, it's like kind of like the living room in some people's houses. Like, it's got to stay clean no matter what, because it's going to set the tone for the entire house. That's kind of what the altar does. It's like saying, I'm focusing the energy here. These kind of spirits are promoted above all spirits in this house. And so it's a place, it's a position of power. The energy and focus in that area concentrates and becomes a spatial sun that everything else must revolve around. The altar is the spiritual nucleus, organizing and protecting as long as it is well kept. Always work with your altar before performing intense spiritual cleansing. You know, it's a defense priority, you know, before you do that kind of stuff. So also I like to think of the altar almost like, let's say a lot of people are just out of work, you know, and everybody's just like, there's nothing to do. And then you build a business, a coffee shop, and you're like, applicants needed, you know, it just organizes people, you know, between, you know, you got a manager, you get people working there, you get people coming there, all because you created this business. You know, same thing with the altar. You create this space for spirits to work. You know what I mean? It's that same kind of principle. Maybe about 3 days, or until you look at it and you can tell that the energy's gone from it. Like, because you can tell when you put it there, you can see this vibe going, and then you look back at it and you're like, wow, that's gone. Like, there's no life. You could tell that the etheric, astral, that energy just was sucked. It was sucked away. They ate it. It's gone. Taking time to travel in natural spaces can really enhance the senses and powers of all your bodies as well.
Yes.
These are 9 herbs that I've used to really change my life. The first one is rosemary.